So we should be live right now. Yep, on YouTube. Here we go. So let's go back to pull up my notes from last time. Let's see here. Just a moment. All right. All right. Okay, cool. So basically, last week, so first off, at the end of each session, you get this take-home challenge, and that's designed to help solidify, new concepts. And the last session, you were tasked with making an assertion on the response to post login. So if you remember here, I'll bring it back up. So if you remember, when you go to sign in, so in this sign in test, you um, you have the post login, post to login, and we wait on that, and we make an assertion on that. So so we also made some assertions on the homepage itself. So so once we actually get logged in, we are at the homepage. So what I challenged you guys with was actually making assertions on that homepage. Yeah, so it's kind of a little bit different of a little bit different of a challenge there, because you were it required a little bit more creativity to kind of figure out what exactly you were testing, not just how to go about the testing. So so we did that, and um, so and then there was extra credit too. So figuring out how to circumvent the UI. So in order for us to get to the home page, in and this was a separate home spec that we created. In order to get there, right, to log out, for example, you needed to authenticate first. Now we have a separate test for logging in, and we go through the UI obviously to do that. But with a new spec, it's I had mentioned that it's not really ideal to go through the UI every time. It's slower, and it's more prone to flakiness than through other means. So so one of the challenges that I had, the kind of the extra credit, was to figure out how to circumvent the UI to authenticate. So um, so with asserting the contents of the request, let's bring up VS Code here. Let's see where we're at. Nice. Looks like I just lost video, but it's coming back up. Here we go. All right. So so we have we have VS Code here, and uh, and just as a reminder, let me make this a little bit bigger. There we go. So just as a reminder, we're on Let's try that again. There we go. I'll get this. I think that's okay. All right. We'll settle with that. All right. Um so we have our home spec. Oh yeah, so I meant to to say here as a reminder, we're on day well, last time was day 3. So I've got that branch checked out, and we have our home spec. And what we did with that, we have our data object. The data object has our username and our password, and we have a before hook. The before hook sets up our routes. And if you remember with the routes, we're essentially declaring a route and using this as to set the alias for that route, so then we can wait for it later. Then we have that's our setup routes hook that happens before the test. Then the other is the sign in hook, which we're going through the UI to do that. And then our test itself for home is logging out. And basically, what we're doing is we're going to we're finding the once we get to home, we're finding the logout element, and we're clicking on it, and then we wait for uh, that logout route that we declared here, and then we're getting the location, the path, and we're asserting that it equals sign in. So let's go ahead and actually run that. There we go. So we'll go to tests. So we've got our tests here. Let's see, I'll do it this way. There we go. So we've got our tests here, and we're gonna go ahead and select home. All right. And there we go. That was quick. So we have that before hook where we're signing in, and that gets us to the home page. And then we're finding that logout button, and we're clicking on it. If we click on this, you can see there's a snapshot before and after picture. So you can see that's what's happening after the fact. And then there's a request to log out. We wait for that, and then we assert that the path name equals sign in. So we're back to the sign in page when we log out. So um, so now so that's asserting the um, so you were asked to assert um, the the request body of, oh, that's right, it was with login. So sorry, so we'll go back to sign in. And what we wanted to do is I forgot for a moment. So we wanted to assert the response. So all right, so let's look at the response body yielded by that wait for login. So let's do this. We'll bring up dev tools, clear out this console there. And if we click on wait, we have in the console here, this wait command yields this XHR. And then we have the response body right here, and in there is user, and that contains the all the user details, including the what was it that I was asking you to assert, is that um, username, right? Yeah, the username. So what we're going to do is this. Let's go back to VS Code, and we'll go to the sign in spec. Yep, we'll go to the sign in spec, and right here we have this sci.wait, and we say, okay, here's the request body, and um, and we're asserting that it equals the this. That was from last time. So for the response, it's basically the same thing. So let's go ahead and let's actually just comment this out for now, and um, we'll do its. And if you remember, its is basically just taking what is returned or yielded by the previous command, and uh, narrowing down to the specific properties inside of it. So in this case, we're going to say response dot body dot username. Okay, and then we're going to do dot should, and we want to see that it should equal, and the username, which we have up here in our data object, data.username, data.username, and then we'll go ahead and save that, and let's pull this up and check it out. So let's see, data.user. Oh, I see where I messed up. There we go. So we'll take that out of quotes. All right. So before we had the request, and now we have the response, and the username equals Ali2. Now, let's just say that we wanted to do both of these, the request body and the response body. We'd have to change this up a little bit. We'd want to take this its out of the equation, and that would be done like this: dot should, and then let's just say it's XHR. That's what's yielded by the that login, and we know that by just clicking on that and seeing it in there. We saw that before. And then we can say expect, and it's gonna be XHR dot, let's see, we have response dot body dot username, and then to equal, and it would be data dot username. So let's actually test that out, make sure that works okay. Expected undefined. Oh, data dot let's see, let's see, response dot body dot, oh, I forgot, user, that's right, user dot username. There we go. And this kind of stuff happens all the time. You have typos and things like that, and that's why um, Cypress does a great job at giving you a tool that helps with that that process. Where um, you try something and it doesn't work, and you can go back and try it again, save, and it watches it and reruns it and everything. Um, and then of course with the runner itself, you can kind of um, easily debug things. Okay, so we've got our response, and then the other thing that we did down here is the, the request. So we're going to say expect, oops, expect xhr dot request dot body, and then to deep equal, I think that's the syntax, and it's going to be this object right here. So super similar to this one. So I'll just cheat a little bit and paste it in there. And that should make this obsolete. So now we've got one single should block, and then there are assertions there for both the response and the request. All right. So that looks good. So all right. So the so back to, so that was the first take home challenge. Pretty straightforward, I think. And so now back to the home spec. So this was a little bit different because you had to get creative about what should be tested on home, instead of just figuring out how to go about it like the other challenges. So there's not really any right answer, I think. But one way to approach the problem, I think, would be to kind of look at how do I explain it? Like the structure of the homepage. So, for example, with with home here, yeah, there we go. So with home, you've got this left navigation here. You have this top navigation with these tabs, and you've got a couple of buttons and this drawer icon here, and then you have sort of the main content. And as far as home is concerned, this is going to be your like transactions, it looks like. Okay, so left nav, top toolbar, and then this, and then within those things you have this sort of username. You've got your full name and your user and the avatar. You have this account balance here, and then you also have these four links that go to these different places in the app, and you have the logout, which we're already testing, and then the list inside of here, which with this list, I think this could be even its own spec, not necessarily within home, but maybe it does fit within home. I think that line's kind of blurry, and that's kind of debatable. it's not, I don't think it has to live in one thing or, one place or another. I think as the suite of tests, scales, I think those kinds of uh, questions will, you know, be a little bit more, the it'll be a little bit more clear, I think. Um, so so that's how I would I would kind of break it up. And then as far as structure, um, so you have your your top level, um, home, describe. I think, the way that it's set up, probably do something like, describe and left navigation, right? And then inside of left navigation is, um, your, it'd be like name, handle, avatar, and then and then um, whatever you want to test in there. Okay. And then let's just leave that for now. So then you'd also have a another describe block, and that would be for your toolbar and tabs, right? And that's a describe. And what's inside of the toolbar and tabs? Well, and that would be your it block, uh, um, nav toggle. So there was that, nav toggle button, and let's see, and then, all right, so blah blah blah, whatever that is in there, and then what was the third piece? And then the third piece was, let me actually do this so that, we don't have errors. And then lastly we have the main content, and that was, your transaction. So describe transactions. Yeah, transactions. So, and then you'd have whatever it, blocks inside of that. So that's how I would kind of, structure it. As far as, like the uh, assertions inside of those, you're looking at things like visibility of elements. You could test that, text content, and that would be using the chai chainers, like be visible, be dot visible, contain dot text, have dot text, and then attributes. I think is a good test, specifically for the links, which is something that I've I've shown before. Now, as far as the process on how to do it, uh, let's see. We're in sign in. Let's go back to home. We'll run that, and then, okay. So let's go ahead and save what we have. And those are empty, so they don't actually do anything, but they're there, placeholders. So now we can say, okay, so we have, well, first of all, we do need to change these to before each, because now we have multiple tests, and the setup and sign in need to happen each time. Actually, I don't know if the routes do, but I know sign in has to happen each time, or at least should. And then we've got our left navigation. So let's do I think a good example test would actually be the the links. So let's actually, I'm going to change this to um, links are visible and um, correct. We'll just say that. And what I like to do is do side.pause and do only here. And then only, what that does is basically makes it so that, well, this, this test, only this test runs. So if we go back to, there we go. So we got signed in, and now we're in our test. Links are visible and correct, and we're paused. So now we can sort of look around and see where we're at and what kinds of things we can do. So the links here, um, actually, let's do this. Let me go ahead and resume that. But let's open up the selector playground, and this is really cool. What you can do is essentially click on this and do you have your sci.get right here. Click on copy clipboard, and then you can go down here and go to this nav toggle, do that, and oops, wrong one. This guy here. Let me get rid of that pause. There we go, and it found that there. So now we can say dot find the link, the A tag, right? Actually, I think that is the A tag. Sorry, right? Let's actually do this. Let's inspect that with. Let's inspect that and take a look. So you've got your, let's see, there's your home, and side nav home, I believe, is that the one we selected? Yeah, side nav home, and that is the A. Okay, so then um, we could say dot should and have attribute href and, well, home, right? That's the route for home. And if we go back to that, you can see there's the href value there. Yeah. So let's go ahead and save that, make sure it works like we want. There we go. So it finds that that nav link, and we're asserting that it goes home. And we could do the same thing for account. So my account. So let's go ahead and click this, go to my account. There's side nav user settings, so we can copy this. And we'll go down here. Dot should have attribute href, right? Okay, but this time it's going to be user settings. So user settings. Let's make sure that works. Okay, cool. So why not you know, I mentioned this before in a previous previous session, but in case you missed it, uh, why not just click on my account and assert that, the location, right? Like we have in other tests, and the reason is because when we click on it, first of all, we're having to load a new page, so that takes additional time. Uh, the other thing is we know that the href is the place that we're going to go and we click on that link. And that's all the browser doing all of that work, right? So by asserting that when we click on the link that we get to that page, most of that is just asserting that the browser is doing what it's supposed to do. So by simply asserting the href value, we don't really have to go through that. So we're kind of testing all of those things without actually doing it. And it's pretty, I think pretty safe to say that if the href value is what we want it to be, that when the user goes to click on it, they're going to go to the place they need to go. So that's why we're asserting href instead of clicking on it. Just a little side note. So I think that's good for now. As far as examples, and kind of how to structure it. Another sort of side note here too is, at least the way that I like to design my specs, I make the describe. Um, I title the describes based um, on features, and the it blocks, the tests are the actions or what the user is going to do, um, in that feature. So like links are visible and correct is, the action. Another way of saying it is like when we click on them, they go to the right place. But that's just an abbreviated way to say that. Um, and this one too, I could word it like, you know, that the navigation, the toggle, yeah, nav toggle. But they could be the the name of the feature can also be the name of the action too that the user's taking, and that's kind of a guideline, not necessarily a strict rule, but that's just kind of how I like to title these and structure my specs. So all right, so we discovered last week that signing in is required before each test, right? And doing so through the UI, like we talked about, is the slowest and it's the least reliable way to set the stage for our tests. So to fix that, we first need to figure out how our application actually authenticates, so that we can kind of mimic that without actually, so we don't have to go through the UI. So let's go back to, well, so we have our before each up here that does the sign in. And if we go to our the runner, we have this post login. Okay, and this post login is made to authenticate. Let's look at that. Um, let's look at that a little bit closer by using pause. So if we do pause right here after the login, and then we do save, it'll pause right there. Okay, there we go. So we're logged in, we're authenticated, and we paused immediately after that. So let's go ahead and look at the application. Excuse me. The application tab in DevTools, and we have this cookies. So right here is our app's URL, localhost. Okay, and then inside we've got this connect.sid. I think we can assume that's a session ID. and it has this value here. Okay. Um, and let's see, can I? Okay, let me play this back. Response. Okay, and if we go to, let's see, login right here, and we go down to headers, here we go. So this is the response from login, and it says set cookie, and you've got this connect SID. This is the same thing as what we were looking at over here. All right. As a matter of fact, let's go back to that and look at the response. So here's the response, and you've got user, avatar, balance, all that stuff, email, first name, last name, modified, etc. And we made in our sign-in application, we made an assertion on that. All right. I think my camera is actually set to automatically turn off. I've got to fix that. All right, I'll do that later. So, um, so let's see. All right, so now we're okay. Sorry about that. So let's see. So we see that there's a cookie, and oh, I forgot. So there's also application, and if we go up here to local storage, there's also this too. So we've got this auth state in local storage, and inside of there, there's these actions and context, and in there you've got user, and it has avatar, email, first name, last name, all this same business. And this one too, event, data, and let me see, where was it? Yeah, this user, same thing, email, first name, last name, etc. So this is the same schema as what we saw there in the request, the response from login. This same thing. So basically, what's happening is when this response comes back, which is what authenticates, to persist it, we have to store the authentication data, right? And the two things that we're storing is the entire response pretty much in that auth state, and the cookie that comes back in the header. Okay. The set cookie, by the way, is done by the browser, whereas the auth state is done by the application. Now, if we poke around the application, in fact, you can just search for auth state. You'll find you'll actually find there's a service in here called auth machine. Um, Obviously, this isn't the only digging that this is just a short version of what we would need to do to kind of figure this out. But basically, we can easily discover that there is a service, like many other applications, that handles authentication, and in here we actually have this local storage.set item auth state, and basically this is where the auth state is saved, and essentially the state is coming from the response to log in. So I won't really get into too much of the I don't really want to get into the weeds of that and how the application works, but under the hood. But the important thing is that um, is that as far as the way that the application authenticates is it stores that information into local storage, and it uses that local storage API, which is just like JavaScript browser API. So, um, so let's go ahead and try to make a request to log in. Now, if you look at the 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 documentation for a request, it's pretty straightforward. So let's go ahead and go into our there we go. Yeah, our home app. I mean our home spec, and get let's just comment this out for now. Let's try to replace it. So we'll do a sci.request. This is how we make the login request, and request takes an object, and that object contains method, and in this case our method is post. The next thing it takes is URL, and in this case it's going to be is it login? Yeah, login, right? And then the body is going to be let's see, actually we can just go right here and see what we put across here. In fact, you can just take this and just use it right here. Okay. So let's actually just kind of clean this up just a tad. Login, and then our username is actually, we don't want to hard code it, so let's do data dot username, and password is data dot password. Data dot password. Okay, and clean that up a little bit. Okay, so let's see, we've got type, username, password. I think that's it. So let's take a look and see what happened here. So obviously this failed because we're not fully authenticated yet. Also, we haven't visited the homepage once we authenticated, so we still need to do that. But we have our post request that was made. Let's go to console, and there's our request. We got a 200 response, and there's the response body. Everything looks good. Everything looks good. And there's our set cookie. All right, so we've got our set cookie. In fact, if we go to application and go down here, see there's no local storage yet because that's what we have to do. But then we have our cookie here. So our cookie's being set. Local storage isn't there yet. We haven't visited yet. That's what we have so far. So far, so good. Okay, so now we need to set that auth state. Now, there was a lot to that auth state, but the important part was the part that's in the user piece. So let's go ahead and get. So we only need the returned by the request, we only need the body, and then within that body, we only need user. So we should be able to do its and body dot user. Yeah, I think that's all we need. And then we do dot then, and here's our user. So that dot then gives us access to what's returned or yielded by this, which is the user. And then what we can do is let's declare. So first of all, we have, let's copy over what the application does, right? Which is window.localstorage.setItem, and then auth state. We're not going to use state. We're going to use auth state, which we haven't declared yet, but that's what we're using to set that in local storage. So let's go ahead and declare auth state. So auth state equals, and it's an object that let's see. Okay, so it contains a few things that okay, so we've got the value authorized, and we've got this context, and the context just equals the context.user equals user, okay, which is actually just user is shorthand for user : user. All right, so we're just gonna do that. Context is the user, as in this user that's passed here, and then the other thing is this underscore event, which we can leave empty. It's not necessary for authentication. And then you've got event, which contains data, and then within that is user. Okay, so this user information is getting pumped into the context, and let's see, yeah, context and event.data. And just to, yeah, we're good. So now we've got auth state, it's all set, and let's go ahead and go. Okay, now this obviously fails because we're still not at we still haven't visited the page yet, right? But the request went through still. But this time the auth state did get set because we did that local storage, and it has this context user in it, and it has this event.data.user. So we did that. So we're mimicking what the application does, and now we can do should we do it in our test? Let's just do it here. Sci.visit, and let's just save that. There we go. Cool. Let's just minimize that a little bit. All right, so then we have our home and user settings, everything else there from before works, except this time we're making a request instead of going through the UI. Yay! So let me do this. If I were to just remove this and just do a sci.visit. Okay, so this is what happens if we don't authenticate each time, is when we actually go to visit the page, it just ends up redirecting us um, back to the back to this page, back to the sign in page to authenticate. So now we can just get rid of that because we're doing it the right way. All right, cool. So we've got a nice clean home spec, and we're signing in and setting up routes. We're testing logout. We're also testing the left nav and the toolbar and tabs and transactions and all of that. I'm going to leave that up to you now to kind of fill that in on your own, as you know, kind of practice to test the homepage, and we'll kind of consider that you know, tested for now, the home spec, and move on to testing my account. Let's do that. So if we go back to the app, when you click on my account, it takes you to user.settings. We actually asserted that earlier. Now on user settings, you've got a form and a save button. So I think it's safe to say, you know, we can kind of be our own PM, you know, or stakeholder here, and just say that the requirement is that you know, you fill out the form, and and you know, the user can modify these fields and save, and that's it. So so you know, this is a separate route. So I think you know, creating another spec is justified. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go to here, we'll do new file and call it my-account.spec.js, and then describe. My top level describe usually just matches the name of the spec, so my account. Okay. And let's see, what would be a good test? Um, um, edit settings. Okay, we'll just say that. Now, you should remember that we still need a before each sign in, right? Now, we are already doing that here. So I guess we could just copy this, right? And that works. That works. Let's just go ahead and do that. Oh, we've got our data, so we need a data. Whoops. Wrong thing. Let's put our data object right here. And then let's move this down here. And go back to tests. Here's my account. Okay, we visited the home page. Wait, we're not going to do that, right? So we actually go to my account. So let's just go ahead and I mean, because we could go home and then click on my account, and then that takes us to user settings, right? But I don't know. I don't think that makes sense. I think it's better to, because we already know that clicking my account takes us to user settings, so it's not like we have to test that. I think we could just go to that route directly. So let's actually go back and we'll say user settings. Let's save that. All right, so now we're at user settings, and we have some notifications and bank accounts. So let's get another before each in here. And we'll set up our routes. Let's see. And then we want to do sci.route. And we've got notifications and notifications and bank accounts. So actually, wait. We have those right here, notifications and bank accounts. So we could actually put those right there. We don't need transactions, I think. What am I doing wrong? Oh, so it says here, sci.route cannot be invoked before starting the sci.server. So right here, there's sci.server. I need to copy that over as well. Okay, cool. So now we have notifications and bank accounts are aliased. So that's good. So now when we go to visit, let's do sci.wait. And we can actually do an array and do at get notifications and get bank accounts. Is that what I name those? Get bank accounts, get notifications. Okay, so let's save that. Okay, and our weights work just fine. Now, this wouldn't be a workshop if I didn't say that we could do this better. You know, we're going into home and we're repeating code, right? We're repeating ourselves. We're kind of just copying this code over and reusing it, right? And we don't like repetition, right? So so we need to find a better way. And I think the universal programming paradigms would suggest that code repetition should probably be avoided, and that should it's in the name of readability and maintainability, and it's done through abstraction, right? In the modern JavaScript world, it basically means creating a module and exporting a function that can then be imported wherever you need it. So, like, signing in or setting up routes. Now, in Cypress, it gets a little bit more fancy with custom commands. Basically, you can import your your module into commands. So right here, support commands. This is just some example text here that we get from Cypress, but basically we can use this Cypress dot commands dot add, in this example, log in with email, password, that kind of thing. We can create commands here. And by doing so, it then becomes part of the Sci namespace. So then it works just like all the other Sci commands, like sci.request and so forth. And then to kind of spice things up even more, before a spec's loaded, Cypress loads this support index.js, and this happens every time the a spec is loaded. This is also loaded. So you have this import commands. So that ensures that essentially that sci dot command that you created doesn't need to be, you don't need to create those commands for each spec. It's just created here automatically. The other thing that's nice too is you can also do anything else that you want to happen before a spec, like these before each hooks for setting up routes and signing in. We could do that here on a global at a global level, and then it applies to all specs. And I think it's safe to say that with some maybe one exception, or like logging in, we do need to authenticate. So um, so we should just do that. Automatically. We shouldn't have to put it in every spec, and that'll save time. It'll save space, and it'll prevent errors and things like that. So all around good stuff. So that's it for today as far as for tonight as far as a take home challenge. If you go to iHeartJS day 4, I'll just bring that up here. You'll see. I'll show you the take home challenge. So create a new spec, myaccount.spec.js. In that, create a function, call it sign in, and that sign in function takes username and password, signs in the specific user via the API, and persists authentication by setting auth state. Okay, so basically what we already did, but in a function that takes those parameters. Then I want you to call or invoke that sign in inside the before each. Okay, doesn't have to be a global before each, just inside that before each. So just make the function, declare that function in that spec, and then put it in the before each, and then write a test to update the user's email address to firstname.lastname@gmail.com, and by going to the route, filling out the form, clicking save, and asserting that the new value in the request is made in the user's endpoint. Because when you save, it's going to do probably like a patch or something to users. Just make sure that request has the new email address. And then extra credit, add the sign in function to commands.js and use cypress.commands.add to create a sci.signin custom command. And then extra credit, figure out a way to use sci.signin in a global before each hook, passing in username and password that's set in Cypress environment configuration. Now, these are challenges. They're they're not designed to be super easy. Obviously, they get harder the farther down you go. Go as far as you can. Obviously, the more you can do, the more you're stretching your brain, the more you're solidifying these concepts. That's what makes this workshop different than just a YouTube video tutorial or something like that. I'm giving you something to help kind of solidify. So do as much as you can. Obviously, some of it, especially the extra credit, is going to involve looking at Cypress documentation on your own. Cypress docs are great, and they're the best I've ever seen for a tool like this. So I think you can do it. Obviously, it does take a little extra time, but next time we'll be going through the solution. So I'll be kind of showing you this. So do what you can, and the more the merrier, and have fun with it. So that's all I have. You know how to contact me. You can go through those typical channels to ask questions if you need to. So feel free to reach out if you need help, and we'll